Today is October 17th, 2015, and we're doing an interview with the dear grandmother here. Um, so, oh, so Grandma, where were you born and to whom?
I was born, uh, good grief, a long time ago,
September 8th.
September the 8th, 1928, to my father,
Walter.
Walter Crow, and my mother, uh,
The late.
late Alan Crow.
How many siblings did you have, and what were their names?
Oh, my parents lost a daughter before I was born. She was 13 years old when she died, and they had two children die. One was 3 years old, and the other one was, the doctor broke its neck delivering it. So she lost three children before I was born. And I was born in the LDS hospital, 1928, was it?
Yes. Tell us your siblings.
Elma, she's older than me by 5 years. And Laverl is, I forget how old he was. And Orville was the oldest boy.
And don't forget your little sister.
Oh, Della. She passed away just a few weeks ago.
And she was how much younger than you?
She was 5 years younger than me.
What were some favorite childhood memories you had?
Oh my goodness. We didn't have a lot of money, of course. And so Dad and I would play games. They always gave us a ball. Every year we got a new ball for whatever reason. And we would throw it any-eye over the house, play any-eye over. And we'd go hunting for birds' eggs all around the whole countryside, people's barns. Dad would never let us disturb robin eggs, but we could do all the other birds' eggs we wanted. And so we played a lot of games doing that, and we made mud pies. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many mud pies we made. Birds' eggs. And then we'd go take the cows out. And they weren't in a pasture, it was just out in the farm fields or past my grandmother's house, and heard them. Oh, I would take the children's friend and read to Odetta, and she didn't like what I was reading, so she got mad at me for something, and I threw a clod of dirt and hit her in the eye, and she went home bawling, and she got to go to a movie, and I had to stay home. But I didn't care because the movie they were showing was one that I didn't want to see anyway. So we used to play together so much. I was 5 years older than her, but we were good friends.
How about with Elma? Did you do much with her as
Didn't do
kids?
much with Alma. She had Alberta Mawson, her best friend, and my mother would send me over to bring her home. It's time to have dinner. She'd always get upset at me because I'd spout at her for having to go bring you home. And so I remember one day Odette and I was pumping her on the bicycle after going over to get Alma, and there was a dead snake laying in the road. And we ran over it with our bike tires. Stink! Holy cow, that thing had been dead for so long that we couldn't get rid of the smell. We always had fun growing up together.
How about with your brothers? Do you have very many memories of them growing up?
No, because they were always older. I remember one time the neighbor kids across the street, that was where Pearl lived, across the fence from our place. And those little neighbor boys would come up and try to get Odetta's diaper or clothes down. And I went running to the house to tell the girl that they were messing with Odetta. And I didn't like that. And so he went running up there and he chased them clear off the farm.
Were they trying to harm her?
They were dirty little pigs. They were trying to get her clothes down, and the girl went up there and chased him away. That's where Pearl lived. And Orville really liked Pearl, but he would never ask her if she would marry him. She kept waiting and thinking maybe he would ask him. She finally told him, she said, if you're not going to ask me to marry you, I'm going to go find somebody else to marry. Well, that did it for him. So he finally asked her, and I think they went to Salt Lake and got married. And would they have had a temple then
Yes.
in Salt Lake
Uh-huh.
way back then?
Oh, yes.
So they got married in the temple. And the girl, since Dad was driving the school bus and he was also taking care of the cemetery, and he asked the girl to go back east somewhere. I forget where he had him go. Went back east and got a new bus for Dad to drive. He'd been hauling kids to school on the back of a wagon, and it wasn't safe. And Uncle Jesse was doing the same thing with one of his kids, and he had a very bad accident and killed a child. He never got over that. He was all such a tender-hearted guy. But Burl got home with a new school bus, and Dad was so happy with it. So he got to drive a new school bus. And
When you said that you used to go hunting eggs, but your dad wouldn't let you get the robin eggs,
no, he wouldn't let us,
why was it that he didn't want you getting robin eggs?
because the robin eggs are blue and so pretty. And he didn't want us to mess with him, so we wouldn't. And Dad was always so very fond of birds, and he always had magpie that he would clip its wings and keep it as a pet. And that Dad was a farmer, along with working at the cemetery, driving school bus. He just had a small farm, but he always kept a bird, clipped its wings, and it would jump around the farm. And he'd get the biggest kick out of that bird, magpie. And
Did he name them?
oh, probably, but I can't remember. But he would lay on the grass. Mom was always canning something. We go out in the farm fields and get peas, lots of peas, bring home to can. And Dad, I remember at that time, he would lay out there on the grass after he'd been working so hard in the field. And that bird would come put pieces of peas in his pocket. And Dad always got such a kick out of that. He loved things like that. So Mom was always busy canning and cleaning, and we were always in the road or trying to help, but more than likely being in the road. But we did when we got older, we did a lot of canning. So much canning. And we didn't have any real means of, she just had a big kitchen stove in the kitchen where she'd heat all the water. We didn't have electricity, which is very difficult at the time. So we had a thing hang from the ceiling that we could pull a chain and have a light come on, but it wasn't very bright. And then after Nielsen's finally broke down and let us get electricity on the bottom of their fields. They wouldn't give up any of their land, but they did go over the back of their fence and brought the electricity into our farm, into our yard. And before we got electricity, we would wake up in the mornings with ice on our beds. It was so cold because he was going to fix another bedroom downstairs, and so he took everything out from underneath the house so we could put a new bedroom down there. And that's when we'd wake up in the morning with ice on our beds. It was so cold. And we finally got that done, so we had a basement under our house. And because it was so cold and so much snow in the wintertime. You just had to drive horses for a long time. And then Mom would put some blankets in a bag. Oh, what were they called?
Like a potato sack? Or?
Potato bag, potato sack. Put it in and put it in the oven so that we could warm our feet on the way to school. It was so cold. Sometimes we'd rather get out and just run behind to keep our feet from freezing. But we don't have that kind of weather anymore. We used to get almost up to the telephone poles. The snow would, it would be so deep in the wintertime. And so we would just, lots of times, just run to keep our feet warm. But he always had an old stove in the old wagon with the Robert was to keep us warmer. Our father was such a wonderful man. Our mother was good. So good. She called me a little shit once. Because I was just, I said something to her. I can't remember what it was, and it wasn't probably very nice. And anyway, my parents were both so good that I learned to respect them. And then when I met Russell, he was such a nice guy, and he loved my mother so much because she always had hot bread. She always was baking bread. We used to eat a lot of bread. And he'd come to visit with me, and she always had a big slice of hot bread and butter for him. Oh, he loved her because she was such a good cook. And when it come time for Russell and his sister Louise left their place there, and it was in Idaho Falls, and he had a month's vacation coming, so Louise went with him to see Bernice and Clarence in Portland, Oregon, and he was gone for a month. I kept waiting. I was a telephone operator at the time, and I kept waiting for his light to come on so I could know that he was home. And finally it came on one day when I was working, and I knew he was home. We met at what was the name of the place? It's still there in Rigby.
Ryrie. The Ryrie Dance Hall?
Ryrie. Oh, what was it called? Ryrie Dance Pavilion. And that's where we met. And that's when he would come to my house and meet my mother. She always had that warm, nice bread for him. Anyway, he was drinking that night, and we were going to have a party at the church, and I just said to him, "You better go do something with your breath, because you've been drinking." And that's the last time he ever drank. I didn't scold him. I just said, you better go put some gum in your mouth or do something, because you smell. And so he quit drinking. And I'm not sure he ever did really smoke. He finally did. He finally told me he did after he had to go back into the service. He forgot that he had joined up as a reservist. And so they called him back in. And that was when, just after we'd been married for a short time. And I can't remember where he went. Iwo Jima, I think is where he went. But he never did have to serve. He always got off the ship and went to the places where it was safe to go. And it would be Japanese people, and they would be sitting down on the floor. They wouldn't have chairs. So he didn't do that, only once, I think. And so he stayed aboard the ship. And then it went to, I can't remember the place it finally ended up. And then they sent him back home. And by that time, I had Rick. And so I had Rick with the bags I had. I was carrying him. We flew. I can't remember where we had to fly anyway to go meet him. And Rick was just a baby. And he was cross, and we couldn't figure out what made him so cross. And we went aboard the ship. And the fellow that was there said, that baby's got a hernia. That's why he's cross. So we took him to the doctor in Vallejo, California. And he told me how to fix a tourniquet for him. So when I got back home with him, we bought a little car while we were down there. And we drove all over town just to keep him from crying. And so anyway, when I got home, my doctor, what was his name? Dr. Davis. He healed, he fixed him up. And I was just ready to bring him home, and he said he's got, scarlet fever. He had some kind of a, so anyway, they let me bring him home. Anyway, we finally got settled in our little home over. Well, we went to his place first until our house was ready for us in Idaho Falls. And then when it was completed, we moved in on Havaset. Is that right? Havaset Drive?
No. In town?
In town.
Bannock?
Bannock Avenue. Yeah, Bannock Avenue. And we were there for about 3 months. my sink and wash dishes, and the lady next to me, just 3 feet apart, she was standing there washing her dishes. And I said to Russell, I can't do this. I cannot stand to stare somebody right in the face while I'm doing the dishes. Well, that's when we moved into our place here. And that was in I believe it was 1950. We were married in 1950. And it was just, I think, about 3 months later when we moved into this house.
Did this house get built before you moved into it?
Yes,
I mean,
it was built.
well, obviously, but
It was.
you know what I mean.
Nobody had lived in it. The kids had used it for swimming. The thing behind us, her kids would go swimming, and they ruined the floor because they would change their clothes in our house, in that house. So they had to do, when we bought the house, they had to do the floors over again. And then they wouldn't let the kids use our house for a place to change their clothes.
Okay, so let's go with what Mom was saying about camping, memories you had camping.
Oh,
I'll sit over.
there was a lot of those. Up at Island Park. A lot of times Russell was still working, so he'd drive, take me up there. And then he'd come home and go to work. And I'd stay up there with the kids. And, we had such good times up there.
Didn't you get some chipmunks at some point?
Oh, always chipmunks. They loved to climb up on my lap and I'd feed them. And the birds, I could have something in my hand and the birds would fly down and land in my hand and take whatever I had there. And it was just such fun to go camping. And it's been a while since I've done it, so.
Yeah. So, but you had 3 chipmunks that you brought home, right? What did you name them? I think they were chipmunks.
I don't remember bringing chipmunks home.
Yeah, there were 3 chipmunks: Alvin, Simon, and Theodore.
That I brought home.
Was it? Did she bring him home, or did Grandpa?
No, we did as kids.
Oh, the kids brought him home, I
Oh.
guess.
Okay.
And was it Theodore that ended up being a girl, and they had babies?
Alvin.
Oh, Alvin. Yeah, Alvin had babies.
Oh, that's. I've forgotten all about that.
So you went there a lot with the kids growing up?
Yes.
Did you go there like every summer, or?
Oh, every summer, yes. We'd go up there, and they always had their bikes. We were riding our bikes one day, and there was a bull elk right in our way. And gosh, I didn't want to get him scared at me. So we took a roundabout way and crossed over the road and got away. But we went 22 miles. We packed a lunch, and we rode 22 miles up to Fishing Bridge. Have you ever been there?
I feel like we have before. Is it a lake?
No, it was a canal.
Oh,
Well,
fishing bridge?
yeah, it was a kind of a neat stream, and somebody went up there and caught all the fish. So it was for quite a while there wasn't any fish.
Huh.
But when the kids were small and we went up there was all kinds of fish in there. So we ate our picnic lunch and rode back home on our bikes. That was quite a lengthy trip. They each had their little bike,
Yeah.
and me on my bike. What fun.
And then, let's see. When did you get the trailer that you used to have?
Oh,
After the kids were gone, we had the camper before.
yes. And we'd go south for the winter. And that was always nice, getting away from the cold. We'd stop at, what's the name of that place? We stayed there first. It goes on down to where the kids play in the water down in Utah.
Powell?
Yeah,
Is it Powell Lake?
well, that wasn't what it was called where we were. Lake Powell. Shoot, what was the name of that? But that's what it would end up down there. So we stay there. That's where we were at for a couple of weeks. When we finally got to Utah, or got to where we were going to camp, Todd answered the phone. And I called, and he said, "Grandma, are we the first people you've called?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Let me get my mom." So he got his mother to the phone, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, we're here, we're fine." She said, "Well, your house has been broken into." And I said, "Oh, who did it?" He said, "Well, the kid that did it broke, his car is broken on your front step." And so the neighbors, Glenn and Doreen, heard that crash. We had just left, and they heard the crash. Glenn got dressed and came over here. Tried to keep the kid from leaving, but couldn't. And so he called Peggy and called Rick and Darlene. I guess it was Ken and Wendy that he called. And so they came right over and saw what had happened. And it had broken the hole that holds it up in the air.
Oh, did it have a different pole before?
Yeah, and so Rex Budge, our good friend, he came over and he fixed it so it was more solid. And then they just had to leave it that way till we got home. We couldn't live in it. So,
Did it go through the front door too?
yes, it broke. Yeah, it broke clear up to the ceiling here. And
Huh.
broke the front door in. Yeah, and there was a big crack there up to the chains there.
Wow.
And I've got that story in my, over in the thing there.
In the China.
Yeah, in the
Cabinet.
china closet. I kept that story. And they found the guy, the father of the guy that did it. The kid must have had drugs in the car or something, because he ran back to get something out of the car and then they couldn't catch him. So he left and got the father to come over. And he said, I knew I shouldn't have had that damn kid. What a way to treat a son. And so it stayed like that till we got home. And I can't remember how we I guess we must have hired somebody to come and put it back together. But it was quite a mess.
Is that why they have that big pole kind of thing up between the poles outside now? Like the connecting the two poles by the garage
Yeah.
to hold it up?
Yep. It was a real mess. And I can't remember. Seems like they found the kid finally. But I didn't have to pay for the damage done. I can't remember who paid for it. But we didn't have to.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess so. That was still, you were down camping when that had happened, then, right? Down
Yes.
in that area. Okay.
And see, we had stayed up here at, what's the name of that place, for heaven's sakes, and stayed there every time we went. We'd go there and stay for a couple of weeks before we'd go on to California or Arizona. And that's when Todd said, are we the first people you've called? I said, yes. And he said, let me get my mom.
Yeah. So did you come back home then?
No.
Or did you just keep doing your vacation and they took
Just
care of it?
Stayed there. We couldn't live in the house,
Yeah.
so we just stayed there. I worried about it because I had this money downstairs that Lonnie got when she was working where? Oh,
Was she still living in Idaho at that time? Or did she move down?
I think she moved.
Was she working at the Mint place?
Yeah.
Liberty Mint?
Yeah. And so I've still got those coins downstairs that she gave me. They're hers.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, you can take them any time. She said, no. But I was worried about that. somebody breaking in and finding those things. And it never happened, thank heavens. So,
Yeah. Well, they must have fixed it obviously before I was born because I don't ever remember seeing that.
yeah. So,
um, I guess so. You went camping there, but when do you remember like going up there with the grandkids for the first time, or who were the first grandkids you went up to Island Park with?
I think it was Lori and Lonnie. Cam? No, I think it was mostly Lori and Lonnie with us. Because they each had their bike. I bought them a new bike. They each had a bike. Oh, we had such a good time up there. The birds would eat out of our hands. The chipmunks would climb up on our lap. And
What did you do when you went to Big Springs?
we just watched the fish. We couldn't fish for them.
Yeah.
So,
Did you go rafting down Big Springs or
yes,
canoeing?
we had a fellow that, I can't even remember his name now. But he moved up to that area during the winter time. He'd lived there. He and his wife lived there, and then we'd go over and visit with them when Russell was with me, and we'd play games. Oh my gosh, card games, and he was such a funny guy. He was so fun to be around. Oh, we had such fun times. I don't remember if Lori and Lonnie went with us when we were with them.
Oh, here, hold on.
I don't remember how many trips we made, but I think we'd go every winter, about 6 winters. Then Russell had a bad spell. One winter when we were going to go, we had a campground reserved for us. So I had to call them and tell them that we wouldn't be there this year because my husband was having some problems. And he had 3 open heart surgeries.
Wow, that seemed
Within a month. Maybe it was a 2-month period. Yeah, he had. Oh, I can't remember all what they were. But he finally got better. But it took, it's 3 months, I'm sure, before he was well enough to do anything. Oh, and then I had to take him to Salt Lake. What was that for? Oh, that was when the dam broke up in Rexford.
mm-hmm.
And I had to take him to Salt Lake for open heart surgery, I believe it was. And so my friend that lives there, she came over and spent an awful lot of time with me. And I was just sitting waiting for him to heal. So anyway, I was there probably 3 weeks while he was healing. And then I brought him home. And he said, I can't lay around. I gotta get up and go to work. It was hurting him so bad. just to lay. He said, I gotta get up and go to work. So he did.
What
Went
was
back
he?
to the post office.
Oh, the post office.
Uh-huh. He just couldn't. It was hurting too bad, just laying. So he went to work.
Who were some of his friends from the post office he'd always hang out with? Seems like he had some girl or a few different people they talked to a lot from the post office.
I can't remember. But anyway, he healed better by working than just sitting around.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do it. So then that's when he finally retired because he couldn't take it anymore. You know, the guys would tease him so bad because he'd ride his bike. Even in the wintertime, sometimes he would ride his bike to work.
Yeah.
They would tease him, make fun of him. Oh,
Just because he rode his bike
because
instead
he
of
rode
driving.
his bike instead of taking the car. He could have taken the car. He liked to ride his bike. He had a little thing on the back of it. But the police would stop him on occasion and see what he was doing. He said, I'm just riding to work. He'd go over to the little coffee shop, have his cup of coffee first before I'd go to work. And then, he did that for a number of years. And then he would, most generally, he would always go to church with us, even though he wasn't a member. People didn't know he wasn't a member because he'd always go with us. They thought he was a member. And he decided that after we moved back from California, we moved down there for a while. No, I didn't like it. I think I told you about that. And so we moved home. I remember Rick saying to his dad, Dad, oh, can I come and, how was it? Can I come and ride with you? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, he'd say, no, you gotta stay with your mother. Because I'm traveling bogus home. We didn't get to, maybe I told you about that. We bought an old truck and loaded it up and headed home. And I don't know where we got 2 sheep, but we had 2 sheep with us. And they stopped him somewhere just out of Utah. And he said, well, I haven't got the courage to charge you now. You get rid of that as soon as you get home. Get rid of it. And so.
Was it the truck just because it wasn't registered, or?
Yeah. Well, the people there where we were living, they just bent everything all over in it so they couldn't read the details or anything, you know. And he said, just keep an eye out for me. we finally made it home. We got rid of the truck, and we got rid of the we had 2 animals with us. I don't know where we got those now. So we got rid of them, and
So what have we talked about?
Hold on. So we wanted to ask what it was like from when you grew up to now, like seeing technology
oh my
change
gosh,
so much.
I don't know beans from buttermilk about things now. Technology has just gone crazy, and I'm still back in the boondocks. So I don't have cell phones, or
You have an iPod.
I have an iPod, and I forgot how to use it. Yeah, I've been trying to learn again. I'll get it someday, but
So,
yeah,
like when you first were growing up, you said you didn't even have electricity on the
no,
farm or anything.
no, we didn't. We just Nielsen's wouldn't give us any of their land to so Dad could.
You put power poles on there?
They wouldn't. Finally, William consented to put a pole on the fence, not out by where it was going to do him any damage. But, so we finally got electricity, and that was amazing. We had a pole chain that we used for the light, and oh, it was just like magic having electricity. Have ice water, put it in our mouth and suck on it. Oh,
So how did you keep food cold before you had electricity?
we always had a lot of snow.
Well, what about in the summer?
Well, I don't remember.
Did you have like a cellar, like a potato kind of
Yes,
cellar,
yes.
where you
had it.
stored food?
Yeah. Oh, and my Lonnie, or Peggy, Odetta, I'll give it. She was my younger sister. And we were standing right on that window ledge, looking in the window, kitchen window. And she was behind me, and she pulled on me somehow, and we fell down down the cellar, clear to the floor. I don't know how we managed to survive that one. But I lit on her. I guess I wasn't very heavy because we were just kids. But anyway, we both survived that. And then we had some neighbor kids that would come over and get on that, get up on that place where we were standing and peek at us through the window. My dad was just furious. He went out and booted those kids off the property and told them not to come back if they can't stay away from that window. Oh, he got mad at him. So I don't remember. And then we had a neighbor girl down the street from us, down the canal. She got in the water, little tiny girl, and I didn't think they were ever going to find her, but they finally found her downstream a ways, pulled her out, and she survived.
Wow.
And that was quite an achievement that she managed to live.
So how have things been the last few years with Dad and since his death?
With him, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like me very well.
Because?
I can't remember.
Because he wasn't doing well.
Well, yeah, he wasn't himself. I knew that. But,
And he said you worked on puzzles too much.
oh, he said she's always watching
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy. Oh, and I can't stand Judge Judy now. I've turned her on a few times since he said that, and I can't believe I watched her like I did.
I always just remember you watching baseball every time it came over.
Yeah, I've always loved baseball, but I can't get into it now. I've tried to watch it, but
Do you have any questions?
What has been answered?
We've gone through pretty much a lot of her life and her children. What have been some of your greatest joys?
oh, just you kids. Just having such a good family has been my greatest joy.
How did you feel when Dad said he was going to join the church?
That's a story in itself, because I was upset with him because he always went with a neighbor kid that moved in here. And they'd go
Tex.
coffee. Yeah,
Tex.
they'd go for coffee. And then I'd bring you kids home and he'd wave and I wanted to spit. I wanted to do, I just thought, I've got all these kids. You're out gallivanting with him. So I didn't say anything to him. He came in and we had dinner. He says, I want you to come get the truck and go for a ride with me. I said, okay. And so we did and got in. I said, where are we going? He said, I'm going for my last cup of coffee. I'm joining the church. And I was so grateful I hadn't said anything to him. He would never have told me that if I'd have accused him. Oh, that was a miracle.
Do you remember his baptism?
Oh, absolutely. I had more people there. His bad. So many people that thought he was already a member. They didn't know he wasn't a member of the church. He was always there with me, except when what's his face started going on. And that guy came down. They had him get up and bear his testimony. Can't even remember his name now.
Tex.
Tex. Yeah.
How about when you first went through the temple? Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. apostle was sitting clear to the back of the room. And of course, neither one of us knew much about the temple at that time. And I was sitting up front where I was supposed to be, and he was cleared back to the back. And we were supposed to be working with these two people,
Well, you were escorts.
Yeah. So Dad finally got up off the chair and walked up to the front of the church. He says, I'm here with this man, but I don't know what I'm here for. And I don't know what he's here for. So they finally got us in place where we were supposed to be. That's your dad. He had to figure out a way to find out what he was there for. Oh, it was a joy to go through the temple.
Do you remember when Ken and Lori and I were sealed to you?
I do. And somehow or another they accused you kids of playing with something that you shouldn't have been.
We
Playing
played
with.
with Monopoly game that was in the
Nursery.
Yeah.
Well, it was there. How were we supposed to know we weren't supposed to play Monopoly in the temple?
Why was it there?
We never did know.
Anyway, the kids got chewed out for that.
And I don't know anything about this, but Rick was sealed to you at a separate time.
Yeah. Because he and Darlene were still in California when he'd been booted out of the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. I thought he was.
Genius here.
So tell us about when Rick was sealed to you.
I can't remember much about that.
Can't you?
She just remembers the important children being sealed to her.
Well, I remember him being sealed, but they had. Well, this was an interesting thing that I don't think I told you. Peggy brought some bum into the house and said she was going to marry him. And I thought, he didn't even have his shirt on. And he was, oh. I went in my bed. I cried and I cried and I cried all night long. And Rick and Darlene came home from California. And Deborah was crying. Deborah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's their oldest.
Yeah. And she was just a baby. And they put her in some cold water and thinking that made her just squeal. And I was in the other room crying because of Peggy and that bum that was here. Oh, I told Peggy about that once. Anyway, she never did have anything more to do with him, I guess. I don't know. But so where else?
So was it when they came back? Did they have Devery when you were sealed to Rick?
They did, because we were 10 when she was born, and we were, 12 or 13 when we got sealed to them.
That's true. Yeah,
So,
we would have had Devery and possibly
Oh,
Jesse. Well, I don't have great details of being sealed to you. I remember the Monopoly game, but I don't remember the actual event. Of course, I don't remember much of anything, so.
I remember bringing you up and setting both of you on the, I think they set you up on them.
Well, we kneeled. We were old enough. We kneeled.
Were you?
Yeah. And why don't you tell us, do you remember the births of any of your grandchildren?
Well, I remember Riley.
What do you remember?
I remember living down there, close near where you were living. We had our trailer set up there. And I remember working as hard as you did to get him here. Oh gosh, that was the hardest work I ever did.
Do you remember I had a Band-Aid over my nose? Across here. Or when I broke my nose.
Yeah, I remember that when you had your still on the bike.
Yep.
I remember that.
Was Riley the first birth you had ever seen?
No, because I never saw my own. I could feel him, but I didn't. Yeah. Riley was the first one I ever saw born. No.
He was such a cute baby.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Well, Mom, tell us how it's been the past 3 years since Dad passed away.
Oh, that's hard because I miss him. And I said, oh, you just spoiled my trip. I was going to go join Russell. Rick said, we needed you. I said, I'm glad. But I didn't know I was going anywhere. I don't remember that. I don't remember anything except I must have swatted a hand against something.
So they resuscitated you, and then you found out, and you said, oh, I missed my golden ticket to go see Russell.
So I said, and Rick said, but we needed you. And I said, well, I'm so glad.
So what message would you like to leave for your family?
Just how much I love you kids. Every one of you. It's just been such a joy to have you here. I can't tell you how much I love you. And I'm sorry about what's happened.
I don't know that that was really your fault.
Well, I know it wasn't my fault, but I didn't have any clue. When I talked to her on the phone, she said, I need you, Mom. I said, well, I need you too. But I didn't know why she needed me. Till she finally told me.
Okay, last of all, bear your testimony.
I love the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So grateful to be a member of the church. I love the gospel. I love its teachings. And I love what it does for us. Makes us stronger and better people. And I'm so grateful for it. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.